Alright, you bastards. This is Some-Belgian-prepper, and today I want to talk about looking towards the future and how uncertain it actually is. Why making this video together with prepping? I would say because anybody who says this will happen for certain in the future, it probably will not turn out just the way as they did. The famous one of these is Nostradamus. He predicted so many things, and they have not really happened. But they were so vague that you will probably find some things that will happen. And that's a whole other can of worms that I'm not going to open. But uh, there is a thing I've been looking into my books recently, and I found this book about the future from when I was a child, and I found it very interesting to see when I was a child what did they predict that the future was. And today I'm going to share some topics in this book with you. It's a book from um, wait, from which year was it? 1999. So 1999 I was. This book I had since I was 7 years old. So when I was 7 years old, yeah, the future was promising, but the thing is something really bad happened between those times and now, like the corona, the war in Ukraine, the financial problems and such. But yeah, I would say this could be helpful with prepping, with the prepper mentality and survival mentality, to say, do not have a doom thinking mentality. If you think is inevitable, a nuclear apocalypse is upon us, zombies will happen any moment, that's not a good mentality. And yeah, together today I will show you what my perspective upon the future was when I was a child, and probably if you would say today, this will be the future in 20 years, it will be a whole lot different than you would expect. So yeah, let's go from topic to topic and see how this book held up in a proper looking way. So this is this topic called "Our Planet is Shrinking," which they meant about communications. And yeah, it's actually happened that the world was getting smaller. I lived in a time that uh, internet was in their children's shoes. There were no. I was in the time that the first real modern cell phones were starting to get sold or into the market. And yeah, if you see it, uh, the world is getting smaller and smaller. You can communicate with somebody on the other side of the world with WhatsApp, internet, whatever. And yeah, I would say this helped preppers a lot about sharing from information like news, survival techniques, data, and other sorts of information. So in a prepper survival look, I would say this is actually kind of handy. But it for the other problems, it could also help create problems like for the totalitarian countries that will also use the same technology to get more people under control into a smaller centralized power. So yeah, this is just a topic about watching Earth from satellites, and yeah, there is that held up. We get better and better satellites and views upon the world. Think of Google Maps. Oh, this is an interesting one. It is a growing world. If you can see, this is a graph from predictions how the population of the world will grow, and it is actually one of my biggest fears, not from my lifetime, but for the next generations, because there we have a finite planet, and there will be more and more and more people, and yeah, at a certain point, it will become chaos. Too many people making too many problems. There is less space for each person, and people will fight to get top dog to say or keep a certain standard of living. And in a yeah, especially in the Western world, that could be a highly problem in this time. And yeah, they predicted it actually really well, because between 2050, it's kind of right. We are now over 7 billion people, and they predicted that the population will be between 7 and 8 billion people. So they were right about that in this year. They say by 2150 there will be 11.5 billion people on this planet, and yeah, there is going to be a certain problem in the future. So tell that to your children if you're gonna have children. By the way, so yeah, it talks about all the problems like pollution and living standards, then the climate, so and over urbanization and people getting older, and those older people need to be supported by younger generations. So yeah, I would say this could be turned into a big problem. So I would say prep for this by prepping your children for the next generations. I would say let your children be what they want to be, but give them a basic understanding of survival knowledge. So you're passing your learnings of survival to your next generation. So that's something that I would do when I get children. This is about eco-friendly living. So yeah, it's about recycling cars that run electric, no fuels anymore, and solar energy. But yeah, the thing is, uh, they would here it stands that it would be something general that everybody would use, but yeah, it's not really that. We're getting a little bit somewhere, but there are too many problems to make everything eco-friendly to a point that everything can get recycled. So yeah, we're not really there, all because of we have only a certain amount of resources, too much pollution from industrialization, and yeah, the transition is still going on and is in their children's shoes. So yeah, that is something that did not held up in my perspective. Just a house of the future. This is how you. This is actually kind of interesting from a prepper's perspective, because this house is self-sufficient in a way from everything that I can read. So like grass roofs that will take in water but keep your roof cool, and isolating your roof by with grass, as some service how do you say this, greenhouses to your house to grow plants, to recycle air, catching rainwater, filtering it. So yeah, this is actually something that if you can probably see, that could help prepare yourself in a way as I was a child. So perhaps this helped me a little bit into the survival mindset a little bit, planting the little seeds. But yeah, here it says that new houses would be all like this, but no, hell not. We are even struggling with putting enough isolation into the houses here in Belgium. So yeah, I would say this is totally not what would happen, but yeah, it's a good idea. Yeah, this is something called Future Police. It's talking about how to use a limited space for more people. Like as you can see, building enormous skyscrapers. It's something like from the movie Judge Dredd. Perhaps I should make a reaction movie to that movie. It's a good movie, and about like here in Japan, small container hotels that everybody will have smaller living spaces, and this is actually something that is happening. Uh, uh, a lot of people, especially in the area where I live, more and more traditional houses get have to make room for apartments. So more people live on smaller spaces, but yeah, those smaller spaces in apartments are less make you less prone to be able to prep and doing some gardening, keeping some animals, and they make you more dependent onto the system. So yeah, that's not really a good future that I would see. They're even talking about something like floating cities to help, but yeah, that's something from 1929. So those people from the past thought we would have flying cities. So you can imagine how wrong the future can be in people's imagination or eyes. Uh, yeah, it is about road networks, how they would solve it, and they would solve it with these are funny. These are cars that ride on their own, like the Google cars that you see now, and they play a little board game in the car while the car is driving automatically to their destination. That is kind of starting, but I don't think that will be something that will happen in the future. on that big of scale, or like the way they tell you. So it's, I would say, 10% accurate. This is about travel, everything about traveling in a futuristic way. We're talking about solar boats, solar cars, mass transits, hypersonic passengers, planes that fly hypersonic or something, and of course the flying cars from any science fiction movie. So yeah, this is something that will not really happen that big, or it will be more possible for a smaller class of people. So I would say always keep a normal bike in your shed. And I'm talking about a regular bike, not an e-bike that if it breaks down you cannot fix it yourself because it has all these electrical components. So I would say always keep a normal bike just to travel on yourself. No, so it was something that I found very interesting. There is topic called the future of the house, and the first thing that when I was a child I thought, wow, everything is automated in this house. But when I look at this view of the future as as the man that I am now, it's horrible. Everything is automated. You're dependent on the electrical grid. Everything dependent on internet and connection and this and all. You almost have not to do any labor, manual labor by yourself. And when the electricity is going down by some current event or something, you're fucked in basically because everything is automated. You cannot even open your own doors because everything is electrified, automatic and electrified. So you cannot even use a manual key to open your door. I hope so because yeah, that's what they actually said about here. They got even some small robot butler to bring your drinks or something. And there is one thing that is kind of interesting for a prepper, and that is this workstation that you would have where you would work from home out. For a prepper, it could be interesting when you're trying to live off grid and still have a job that you want to do, that you don't have to travel far from your off grid location. So that could be a little bit interesting, but it's for me, it's a little bit a horror view to live. And this was so-called, if you can see, the house in 2020. So 3 years ago, this should have been reality. I'm glad it isn't, to be honest. Oh, this is just easy living. All these gizmos and gadgets like little translators in your ears to understand any language. Some cards that you can buy stuff from the internet with. Electronic pets, like it's like an advanced Tamagotchi actually, and some smart trash that will automatically sort your trash into certain parts to throw it away easily. So yeah, some of these things could, in a way, have been happening, but yeah, I would say it's yet again everything is automated and electrical. So yeah, the human component is getting tested in this way, I would say. Right. Oh, this is just something about the mind. This is not really interesting for prepper uh, visions. Uh, yeah, this is about genetic modifications, how we would use genetic modifications to help with cancer, disease, plants, and such to help our bodies. So yeah, it is something that is happening in a really, really early children's shoes, like those twins in China that were genetically modified. But I can understand how people in the future will try to tingle with genetics for getting certain heretic how do you say this, diseases that are shared from generations, to get those out of the gene pool. But yet again, we could still have these problem with a certain Charlie Chaplin look-alike kind of ideas where you would say only blue eyes and blonde hair, kind of genetic modification. So yeah, it could go a good way and could go in a dangerous way, I would say. This is yet again genetic manipulations, how we would genetic manipulate animals, like creating a chimera to get like really fat cows and sheep without diseases, and mice that could detect cancer or something. So yeah, it is also happening, and yeah, genetic modified animals are a thing actually. And it is about food in the future. yet again, everything is genetically modified, and I would say it could go both ways. Yet again, the green revolution makes sure that we would have more future, more food for a growing population, because they created genetic modified crops that would have bigger yields, and here they're talking more about genetic modified crops that would be suited to be adapted to certain areas, so that you can grow plants that are not suitable for colder areas, that they can grow in the colder or wetter areas or even hotter areas or certain soils. So yeah, that could be good for a prepper to have those things in the future, because of the climate change. Plants and their genetics will be a little bit confused in a way, and they will not grow that much, and especially with the growing population, that could be a big problem. um, Changing bodies, this is all, all body modifications like prosthetic limbs and body parts and eyes and ears. So yeah, I would say this could be good if you're a prepper, if you have lost a body part and you have a functional prosthetic that could help you with using an automatic hand for doing your survival tasks. But yet again, I'm fearing that a lot of people will use this to enhance their natural body to be quicker, stronger, while they are not really needing it. So that's a fear that I could have, that they would create some sort of prosthetics that they would enhance soldiers and military or something, to get more control over a population. So yeah, that is some things they would think about. But I will hope that a lot of people can be helped with all these prosthetics in the future, for to not only get a normal life, but they could get a life where they can contribute more to to their own survival, instead of being dependent on other people while times are getting bad, is what I'm trying to say. That is just about robotics. A lot of things we are way past with them, especially with artificial intelligence. This would be a pivot point around this time, and yeah, I would say get a toe in the future, but keep a feet in the past by learning basic survival skills, and not to make you wholly dependent on all these electronics. Um, so yeah, that's something I would say as a prepper. Uh, oh, that is about artificial intelligence, about thinking machines, artificial intelligence like security, grabbing things, serving robots or something. So yeah, I would say this is one of the biggest dangers, because the persons who held the most advanced artificial intelligence, they will have a monopoly on a lot of parts in uh, in the world, like on economic basis and also military basis. So that could be very dangerous. We see these especially with drones in the Ukraine war this time. So yeah, it will be human meat against machines, thinking machines actually, and it depends who is the one who has control over these, over the most advanced artificial intelligence. Uh, this is yet again part two of the virtual reality. Yeah, I don't think this will be too big. It will be helpful in a lot of industries, but I would say the for a prepper it could be a handy learning tool. But I would say I would warn you as a prepper to make virtual reality as a big part of your life. I would say don't really do it, because you will be distracted too much. You will be addicted, a little bit more addicted towards this sort of working, and it will be a lot of escapism that you could use for your survival, by working in the garden, hunting, and learning some real life skills that other people would only see in their virtual reality, and not do that by themselves, because there's a big difference between seeing something, even though it's advanced like this, and actually doing it in a real environment. This is about seeing the invisibles. We are talking about yeah, sort of X-rays, MRIs, and special lamps and such. And yeah, they had some big expectations. I see, but we're still near not there. And even if you have some things that could directly see through walls, it could be a little bit dangerous because it could mess up with the body and for health safety, I would say, and it will take a lot of energy, which you will also be dependent on. So I would say trust your sentences, but as a prepper, some things you could perhaps use for your own advantage in the future, but keep it moderated and trust your instincts, I would say. Um, oh, this is one very fun one. This is about everything's getting smaller. If you can see, most of the things that you see on this is obsolete. We have all these things that you see around on these 2 pages. They are just in the smartphone alone as basic as the basics. So imagine what it will be in 50 years. That's your even your smartphone would be outdated. So I would say keep watching these things, because but also don't be too dependent on these kind of things, like a Pipit Boy from a Fallout, the thing that everything does. That But if you're so dependent on this machine that you cannot do anything without it, that's a bad mentality. So I would say use it, but use it in a way that you are still able to work without it, is what I'm trying to say. Oh, these are some materials, lightweight materials, and these could be interesting for preppers for tools. So if you have a tool that is lightweight but still as strong as, for example, a steel one, that could be handy for making something like a bug-out bag lighter, clothing lighter, with the same or perhaps even better qualities than you now have. So this could be interesting to look out for in the future. A lot of materials have been better than these, but I would say they are still expensive and hard to get and hard to make. So I would say invest in these materials or tools that are lighter while the getting is good, is what I'm trying to say. We're almost at the end. That is actually what I'm talking about. It talks about new borders. As you can see, it's talking about colonizing Mars and such. And this is something very interesting because, like I said in the beginning, if I have not missed it, uh, when I was growing up with this book, the future was promising. The future was, it will always get better. But now we live in a time where we're trying to keep what we had, trying to keep what we have, because things are getting more expensive, harder to get. We have to compete with more people, and there is climate change and war and nuclear war. So I would say try to keep positive towards the future, but do not have too much expectations, but try to make the world a better place for yourself in the future, instead of relying on like this, like the scientists of the world to help, and the politicians to make the future better. You are the one who will make your future better, is what I'm trying to say. And that is a good lesson we can learn from this book. And there is one more thing, and this is what I found interesting. If you perhaps can see, this is a calendar of everything that we should have. So this starts from 2001, that they would predict something like a wait, I will go through all of them in English, in my best English if I can. So 2001, they predicted that we would have solar panels would be everywhere for every house to make energy. It for a lot of houses, but we're not at the point that we are all trying to be self-reliant with that energy. So that is not that is half happening. So yeah, color screens of the highest qualities on walls. Yeah, we have these kind of TVs, so that's yes. Electronic newspapers and paintings, yes, they exist, but now we throw soup at them for some reason. Everybody would have a handheld telephone. Yes, sure, with a smartphone. To teleshopping, yes, it's almost almost rampage with and even I'm guilty of this. So teleshopping is something that is actually, ordering something from the internet is something that is happening all along. So that's definitely happening. Uh, how do you say this? cause fake blood and ears. So yeah, something that could replace blood and ears. Yeah, the ears parts, yes, those exist, but blood, we don't really have a substitute for blood, so it's not up to, it's partially, actually, I would say. So yeah, everything of your medical dossier is just in a smart card. Yeah, I had one of those cards, so yeah, that's right. So now we are in 2004, electronic notebook that has the same contrast as paper. So yeah, a substitute for paper on an electronic way. Actually, that's just an iPad in my way, but it has not the same consistently as just regular paper. 2005, hydraulic chairs for VR games. We have VR games with a headset, but yeah, hydraulic chairs are something really expensive and not for everyone. So that's, it exists, but it's not for everyone. 2005, yeah, different forms of electronic addiction is becoming a public health problem. Yeah, that's really something happening. Like people who are addicted to gaming, to the smartphones, and yeah, that could be very dangerous, especially if you are a prepper. Because I lived 4 years without internet, and I was so relaxed. Because of Corona, I had to. I had to get internet, and I was back onto the system, and it's addictive. Uh, even I would admit that I'm more on the internet than I should be, since I had to do it because of Corona. Everything had to be happening through internet with making appointments and finding stuff. So yeah, so that's a big problem because a lot of people have a lot of even health problems with this. Where was I? 2005. Sensors with as good as humans. So yeah, those things are probably existing, but they are not used for a lot of in for certain applications, but not for the general public, I would say. 2007, 2000. Oh, we have the whole base gene genome clear. I think we are far in it, but we still have to examine what junk DNA is. So yeah, a lot of the gene genome is set into maps. So yeah, that is something that happened. 2007, robotic space vehicles and facilities. We have space vehicles, but we do not really have facilities on other planets. Perhaps some on the moon, but yeah, not where people live. It's more like robotics. 2009, fireman robots do some search and rescue. We have certain smaller robots that exist, but not on the scale that they are probably meant here. The most work is still done by people. 2010, smart clothing and their thermal, then they can regulate their thermals. There are certain clothings, but yeah, those are usually using some air conditioning and batteries, internal batteries. I think they would also use some solar panel kind of clothing. Those are existing, but those are very expensive and not really in the general public, because this is talking about general public and not just a company that made them for a certain people with a lot of money. 2011, solar panels with more multiple layers and efficiency greater than 50%. Nope, that's a big dream, but we can we can be glad that it would be 50%. 2011, guarding and fireman robots. Yeah, I would say I seen some police robots in America that they want to make that they want to use, and in the military, but they talking about security in civil life. So yeah, we have alarms, but no guarding robots, I would say. 2011, ah, uh, like the robot butler that I showed before, are doing everything from cleaning, organizing, and doing chores and getting groceries. Those, nope, those are still being done by yourself or humans, and I would say thank God, because it would be fucking creepy. 2014, nano robots are traveling inside of the human body. Nope, we are not there. Not even close, I would say. 2014, robot pets. If you count your Tamagotchi, yes, but not in a sense of like a robot kitty that is walking around and licking his own ass. So yeah, 2014, the first human lands on Mars. Perhaps Matt Damon, but that was not that was a movie and not real life. So that doesn't count. So I would say nope, we have not landed a person on Mars. So only robots so far and vehicles. 2020, we're getting closer. Three-dimensional meetings. Yeah, those are not really tried 3D, but yeah, we can look at the screen and keep meetings, but not that you sit in a room, perhaps in virtual reality, like oh well, what is it called? Uh, the metaverse, I think. But nah, those are something that is not really general in the public. 2020 genetic every genetic disease is discovered. Mm, not really, but a lot of discoveries have been made. 2020 artificial lungs, kidneys, and brain cells. Nope, those those are still done by expensive big machines, and we still have to do transplantation. So nope. 2020s cars write their own on intelligence highways. We're starting with Google cars, but I don't see a future in that. That's because too many cars would get into problems, getting fucked around with people and robbers, and yeah, I don't think that would be something that will happen in the future because humans are going to human. 2025 cities deep under the ground in Japan. I would say there are a lot of infrastructure that are going subterranean, but not to say that there are whole cities beneath Japan, I would say. So perhaps there are a few cities in China like that, but yeah, humans still need the sun for vitamin D, so it's not really happening. 2025, new forms of planets and animals, no, new forms of plants and animals by genetic manipulations. Hmm, we have Dolly the sheep, but further I would say we have not really made that many genetic chimeras, I would say. So I would say no. Artificial liver 2025. No, we still need transplants. So yeah, I need to cut some drinking if I read this. 2025 life expectancy of 100 years. Nah, nope, it's still at most 80, 78 years old for women, I think, and less for men. So yeah, we're not going to get in generally not getting 100 years on this planet. 2020 2025. Um, oh, winged models of planes traveling people with a speed of 960 kilometers an hour. They tried that with the Concorde, did not work, and yeah, that's not happening. 2030, there are more robots than humans in developing countries. Well, if you count if you count one of those artificial intelligence sex toys, then perhaps, but I don't think they count that kind of sort of robot. So nope. 2035, a fully functional artificial eyes and legs. Nope. I don't think those will are around. Perhaps in the beginning, in the developing stage, but not this one. And then they have some what the problems that would happen in the future, but they have not put a date with it, which is very interesting. So quotes, the problems from the future could likely be the fishery industry will collapse. It's actually kind of happening in a way because a lot of places in the seas have problems with the coral reefs, less fish, less whales, less fishing grounds, and they have to travel with better boats further away. So yeah, we have really have, and especially with the microplastics in the water, we will have a problem with the fishing industry. It's starting to get there. Uh, Next thing, asteroid hits the Earth. Has not happened. That film with Bruce Willis on that asteroid has not happened. So as long as Bruce Willis is alive, we can conquer any asteroid, I would say. uh, so next thing, side effects of medication on long term will be discovered. Yeah, I can see that happening. That there are some medications that will fuck around with our genes or something. Like yeah, and some companies will not tell it even if they discover it. So yeah, that could happen. Viruses getting immune for every possible treatment. This is something that is happening on several bacterias, as I know, because there are certain STDs that are immune for certain antibiotic treatment. So yeah, these things are happening, and the day perhaps can come still come. It's always possible that a superbug that is immune to every known thing, every known antibiotic, will arise from perhaps the melting glaciers and permafrost. So yeah, if we have one of those, it will be the Black Death, the plague, pestis from Europe all over again, that kills a lot of people, that we have nothing, that we cannot do anything against it. International financial crisis, yeah, we had several financial crises in 2008. We have one now, and in the future there will always be a international financial crisis, because everything is interconnected these days, and in the future as well. So yeah, global markets will have their recessions, and we're in one right now. Next one, the great information storing. How do you say this? The great information blocking. So what do they mean by this? Probably, I would say that you cannot trust information anymore, especially with artificial intelligence. That if something happens, when you see something in the news, it could be fake news, and fake news or fake information that gets spread around on the internet throughout the world in a short time, and you will not know what is right, what is wrong, what is real, what is fake. So that's what they talk about. Next thing, nanotechnology is going to start. Yeah, I would say if technology is getting so far that nanotechnology will be used, the person who has monopoly over that will have a lot of power, and we all know a lot of power will be abused. Next thing, energy revolution. We're in that period where we want to transit from fossil fuels to renew energy, but yeah, the energy revolution, because if some countries will use coals to get into that transition, or oil, while other countries put so many money and effort and people and technology into renewable energy, that could be a big problem to compete on a global financial market, and that could get into a lot of problems. So yeah, it will be a hard time for that transitioning. Um United Nations splitting apart, I could see that happen in the very future, because the more people there are, the higher population, the more divide it will be, and we humans have been biologically developed to only know in 150 people, so in small groups. So if you try to keep a country together with millions of people, that's much harder, especially in this age where people are a lot of individualistic, or they are being treated like put in categories where they don't want to be. Next thing, terrorism is out of control, and I would say not now. It's more about the fundamentalistic people and anarchist people. They are usually small groups, but when bigger group are organizing and putting revolts and terrorists for their cause, yeah, I could see that happen. And it could be something like the communist revolution all over again in certain countries, where the financial and the technological and the class system has been so interwoven that people will lose their identity. Yeah, that, or be unfair treated. That could happen. Would happen, I would say. First contact with extraterrestrial life like aliens. Yeah, I would say if aliens find us and they can get to here, we're fucked, because they are so technology advanced. We can learn something from the Spaniards that conquered the South Americas in the medieval time, and the same thing will happen with us if aliens will come to our planets, I would say. But I would say that is less likely, because the first contact with alien life would be more like finding bacterial evidence of life, like bacterial on Mars or some other planets. So yeah, the biggest problem that I could see is if we find life on other planets and we bring it to here as a sample to test, it could bring some bacterial or diseases or pathogens that we are not that any life on the planet is immune to, and if it escape, it could fuck us up really bad, like the superbug that we talked about earlier. Next thing, human mutation. yeah, I would say that is not really that possible, because for human mutation to be a problem that it will divide people, like we used to live with certain other humans kinds, like homo sapiens, which we are, live together in Europe with Neanderthalers, and yeah, they disappeared. But we are in a world where we are so connected with other people from all around the world that mutation is not really that possible, and especially not with the way that we live. There is no sort of natural selection that will help bringing division from a certain mutated persons that will be favorable for survival, I would say. So yeah, I would really not see that happening. Worldwide epidemic, yep, that happened. So yeah, that is, the coronavirus definitely happened, and they will invent time travel, but that will never happen because we never met a time traveler, and if they would exist, they would already have visited us in the past. So I know this video has been a little bit long, but yeah, I found this very interesting to look when I was a child, what was the future, and we can learn some lessons from it, from how we look now as we as adults towards our future and our next generations. So yeah, I know I've been on to a rant, but I really wanted to talk about this little blast from the past that I found. Uh, so yeah, I hope it was a little bit interesting or kept you busy for how much, 40 minutes or something. So I would say, if you have something to say about this, leave it in the comments. I'm always interested in other people's perspectives. Thank you for watching, and like, subscribe, and see you in the next video. Cheers.